such an asshole.
All right, it's Monday and it's time to get going here. My apologies for any internet problems, but with the rally over, hopefully there's some free internet. Video is sponsored as always by me and all the products I have, which are linked below, which includes, what does it include? It includes a link to the course The Dad You Never Had, because if we had fathers who warned you about the real world, there's that course. You want to have these problems. Bachelor Pad Economics, because you can always be working on your finances. And then maybe it's the menu, Life Without the Opposite Sex, and the Book of Numbers, analyzing the ROI in the pursuit of women, which none of you did who sent me stories. You just saw, oh, she party, I love, I'm in love. She gonna be good to me. Even though I think this guy is immigrant, so more I'm like, oh, senor, she will be so good to me. Slowpoke Rodriguez. Remember Slowpoke Rodriguez from the Looney Tunes? Oh, God. You guys are all missing out. All right, this is long, and I'm going to skip at points where it doesn't fit. So everyone grab their sitting down chair. I am going to talk about his father, though. Before the train wreck, I was red-pilled on financial literacy at the young age thanks to my father and mother. He capitalizes on both. Good respect, sir. But mostly my father. Okay, like 90% my it's because your mom just consumes research. That's what they do. Women, on the other hand, that's a different story, as we'll shortly find out. My dad had a high-paying sales consulting job and also owned a rental properties. And on weekends as a youngster, I would often hear, we're working this weekend, which would mean my dad would drag my ass out of bed at 5 a.m. to go drive to his rental properties an hour away and work for 12 plus hours, cleaning gutters, mowing lawns, painting walls, cleaning out fridges, because the liberal white kids from the suburbs wouldn't do those jobs. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't, that wasn't in there. Cleaning out fridges with rotten food in them, etc. Basically, all the shit jobs that required zero skill that my dad didn't want to do. My payment for my work, a McDonald's Egg McMuffin meal, which was a tax deduction from my father. God bless your father, sir. God bless him. My mother soon took after my dad and had me work at her parents' restaurants during summers. First a busboy cleaning tables and then graduating to dishwasher one fine summer when the previous dishwasher was busted for meth possession. And eventually handling some of the cooking, which I actually did enjoy. I was paid a handsome $10 an hour under the table for my work at a restaurant that fateful summer of my first experience exchanging my time for money, which was actually a positive one because the government wasn't involved. Listen to this kid's dad. He had a good dad. He did. This is good. My dad was also thoughtful enough to put a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad into mine and my older brother's hands. He moved out long before when I was around 12 and told me to read it, that it might just change my life, and it most certainly did. Look at that. Look at that. He goes on to tell me about working at a theater. Fast forward to high school and elementary. Guys, I don't have time to be doing your life story. You got to get to the point. I want the details on the marriages and the divorces of the topic at hand. You bribed your teacher because you worked at an electronics store, so you got a B. You got him or her a discount so they could get a digital camera. During my high school career, I had many, many very pleasant encounters with girls my age that resulted in consensual, sexy times. And when not gallivanting around, I was in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. In short, I was doing pretty well, all things considered, as far as where I was supposed to be at that point in my life. My parents also divorced right after I graduated high school. You didn't graduate from high school. You graduated high school. I'm not going to go into that. You bring shame to your name, sir. You graduate from high school. You don't graduate high school. All right, all's going. I have to constantly check the internet, make sure I'm not roboting out. They hadn't been happy for a very long time. Mom had a prescription pill problems from her disease. Okay, so she had a legitimate disease, which honestly, Dad was a saint for putting up with. Well, wait, was her disease physical or mental? Was Mom just being a bitch? Or was she actually like, oh, you have a physical problem and you need this drug to treat it? With Dad putting up with it, and Dad traveled often for work, and when he was home, he was grumpy because he had a high-stress job that often very heavy-handed with me until I started working out and actually became a physical threat to him. That's not good. Then magically, the heavy hand tactics stopped. We never fought, but he almost blinded me in my right eye when I was younger, threw me to the ground, and my face hit a wooden stair. I look back at it as I could have been in some better respects, could have been a lot others a lot worse. All right, so that's not as good as it sounds. Always be grateful for both of them making me get up off my ass and get off the PlayStation and go do actual work that sucked. I knew I wanted to read in the real estate, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now you go into a unnecessarily long thing about how you went into personal training. Trainers, you are very good at selling it. That's you're giving me all this, dude. You got to take a writing course. Like, your writing's fine. You just got to like, oh, maybe I shouldn't include everything about my high school career. So take place manager just sat there smiling, at 21 and now in charge. Okay, there I was at 21, now in charge of 30 to 40-year-olds. Life is good. Good times came to a screeching halt thereafter my mom passed. She was disabled. She had an immune disease I inherited from her, so I was living with her at the time to look after her and keep up with the house. She wanted me to make breakfast. She didn't come to the bedroom door, and after I grew a bit concerned, found her dead on my floor. My brain was not wanting to accept the reality of what I was saying. This has nothing to... It's tragic. It's sorry, dude. You better cut this shit out for the future sake of your career. Screaming not to give up, kept giving CPR, no amount of therapy helped me get over, live with it. Mom wasn't perfect, but could have a handful, good, blah. State was settled. I inherited money. You bought yourself a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. Worked at the gym, went into finance, reinvested into the real estate properties you bought. It all snowballed from there into me having close to a 7-figure real estate portfolio and clearing 6 figures a year, completely passive from my real estate alone. Well, look at what that book did. Robert Kiyosaki's helped a lot of people. I'm this close to meeting him someday. Yeah, I'm Rolo's buddy. How you doing there, Mr. Kiyosaki? So there I was in shape, a solid 7 on the attraction scale with decent job that I didn't give a fuck about. I was number 1 in sales across 3 gyms. I could do whatever I want as long as I kept my numbers up per sales. And I was 27, already financially set for life. What could go wrong? A torpedo called a woman. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true. The book of numbers, I didn't write it for S's and G's. It's true. So now you're going to sign a legal contract that puts all your hard work and all the investment and wisdom your father put into you and the wise choices you made yourself because of pussy. That's it. That's the economic reality. And all the girls right now, because they got to protect their little cartel, they got to protect their little fiefdom and the racket, they're going to super hypersonic which is getting so tiring now. Oh my God, you just hate women. Oh my God, you must be gay. Oh my God, you must have a small penis. You could keep saying that. I'm going to use this guy. Remember this other guy you put up on the cross and you nailed him to the planks of wood, but he's not Jesus. You're just like, oh, he's a guy. He's got money. I don't know how many more people we need crucified along the road to warn others. Imagine that if we, instead of divorce stories, we just had men crucified along the interstates, maybe nearby, near like, jewelry stores and wedding bridal stores and churches. There'd be all these divorced men crucified. You'd be like, would you boys get it then? Would you get it then? Wait a second. That doesn't look fun. He looks like he's in pain. That looks like he's still alive. Oh my God. The train wreck begins. My job at the gym was to sell physical training. I was darn good at it. I averaged, God, dude, okay. This is relevant because one of the sales I made that fateful day was a foreign woman. I won't say where. Yes, I have a thing for accents. Turns out this foreign woman was getting a divorce. So seeing as how the situation had yet played out, I signed her up as usual and made polite conversation with her in the gym when I saw her from time to time until she showed me her divorce was finalized. It was at that point I asked her out, wanting to be fancy for my small-ass town, took her to an Italian restaurant. We chatted until the restaurant closed, then made out in the parking lot. By her second date, I already had her in the sack. I can't tell you exactly what it was. Maybe her giant ass or her accent as she was coming, but something about her was really appealing at the time. She had bitties. That's it, dude. That's it. By the way, she was my first older woman. By older, I mean a decade. I'm intentionally leaving out her profession, but like so many women, she has a master's degree. Okay, that doesn't narrow it down. I'd say I could tell, like, oh, she has a master's degree. That doesn't narrow it down. So we officially began dating. I found her after I banged her brains out that she had kids. Initially, this didn't bother me as my logic at the time was sex was great. She definitely had a genuine burning desire for me, and we both actually joked, it's not like we're getting married. Well, after about 6 months of hot, greasy monkey sex, her kids wanted to meet me, and she was open to it. At this point, I still focused on building my real estate empire and closing contracts at the gym, and just been enjoying the giant ass bounce. I won't say you. I don't even know what ethnicity, but you are of foreign family or ethnicity. We ain't fighting over girls with large asses. We just aren't. It's just that's your okay. You have them. Yeah. No. Well, I'll stick with these over here. But I thought, what the hell? Why not? It's not like we're getting married, so I met the kids. Initially, it was kind of sweet. She definitely seemed like a loving mother. Kids were excited to meet me. She had 3. No names will be used: Larry, Curly, and Mo to describe her 2 sons. The daughter, Curly. Curly was by far the most excited to meet me. She had a trapper keeper full of questions, which I did my best to answer. Larry wanted me to play Xbox with him, was surprised when I actually kicked his ass and headshotted him multiple times. And Mo had his own iPad, which I think was odd at the time. And he was just kind of there glued to his iPad. So the initial meeting went well, and I was informed later that the kids really liked me. Now the fluffy stuff is out of the way. Let me get to the giant red flags. Like, I don't know, the 3 kids you just met. Like, she's a single mom. Like. I failed to recognize with my rose-colored glasses I was wearing. As I began to get to know the single mommy over time, she told me she'd been divorced once before, so this was her second one. Of course, her first ex-husband was controlling her, i.e., told her what to wear, etc. And her second husband was also controlling, as well as an abusive, alcoholic, violent individual who had multiple affairs, of which had resulted in bastard children. None of which was her fault. She was walking along, minding her business, and now came the alley 2 husbands that beat her and did all these bad things. She had no responsibility. There's an actual song. That's actually a nice song. What was it? Nat King Cole sang it? Coincidentally, they were both American and also in the military. With her second husband, fathered a kid. She lived all over the world with him, and he'd only been stationed in my state for a short while before he was sent off to deploy to the Mideast, where he'd find his most recent affair partner, and essentially abandoned her and the children, and decided that he was done with them and wanted to marry his affair partner and move to another state with her to stop. God, dude, Christ, man. I believe he was fleeing my ex-wife and wanted to get as far away from her as possible. This is where it starts to go off the rail, Cappy. I can't tell you exactly how many kids this guy has, but it's numbering at least 10 because he had 3 kids with a fair lady who the poor SOB is now married to, along with 3 kids from Aussie girl and an unknown number of bastard children. Dude was setting up franchises all around the world. But I digress. Yeah, there was a clause in her divorce which she insisted on that is particularly unusual, where no one of the opposite sex is allowed to stay over unless related by blood or marriage for both herself and ex-husband. Ex-husband in her divorced. Where no one, clause in her divorce, no one of the opposite sex is allowed to stay over unless related by blood or marriage for both herself and her ex-husband. Okay, so no boyfriend, girlfriend staying over. Ex-husband gave no fucks and immediately married a fair partner, as well as pretty much washed his hands of her and the kids. Enter at who was also, in hindsight, an extremely toxic friend that I am now convinced is a closet lesbian. She's also unhappily married. That was in love with Aussie girl that is her BFF. The BFF was, man, you're writing his shit. God, the BFF was so toxic. So the Australian girl had a lesbian girlfriend. Was so toxic that she didn't like to see Aussie and I together, as it made her jealous. So an agreement was reached where toxic friend would watch Larry, Curly, and Mo one day every weekend as to allow Aussie and I the opportunity to bang like rabid monkeys. Then the other day they would hang out and I would be free to do as I please and hang out and party with my friends. My PP was very happy with this arrangement. So therefore I was very happy with this arrangement. Is weird. It's like watching a tornado outside, but you're like in, bulletproof glass. Like, it's very entertaining to watch. You just don't step outside. But let me guess, you're going to sign the marriage contract and step outside. So in other words, Aussie and I never cohabitated, and I never once stayed at her place with the kids. She always stayed at my place, and or we went away for the weekend to indulge in our carnal desires. One day I actually went to her house and grilled out and made hamburgers, hot dogs, etc. on a little charcoal grill that I brought with me. Everyone enjoyed the food. Afterwards, I had brought a copy of Mario Kart as I know she owned a Wii, and who doesn't enjoy a good game of Mario Kart? So after dinner, along with her Curry Mo, we played Mario Kart for 20 minutes as I could have smashed the bejesus out of a lot of them. I think you mean in the video game, but I wanted to be fun, so I was holding back. Aussie was doing her best. However, Curly was killing it and coming at God, dude, what does this have to do with anything? We played Mario Kart and the kids had fun. Mo was losing his absolute shit at this time. After about 20 minutes of this, Mo stood up and threw his Wii controller against the wall and began attacking his sister, at which point she ran upstairs crying, and Aussie had to restrain Mo while he wailed about the horrors of losing. At this point, it was abundantly clear Mo had anger issues as with difficulty regulating his emotions. Oh, it's a multi-vortex tornado. It's an F4 and an F5, multi-vortex tornadoes. Let's go outside and play, shall we? I'm sure being glued to an iPad all day with no time and content restrictions at all did wonders for him. Don't forget the broken family. I did not bring Mario Kart back over again. So all this went on for years. Can't understate how good the sex was. And then abruptly there was a change. What, things got even worse? What change was that? Her ex-husband decided to come back to the state to fight for the amount of child support he was paying. Well, that's not that bad. Kind of cheer for this guy now. She'd somehow managed to get his military pension garnished, and the idiot decided to represent himself in court. As you can imagine, this did not bode well for the guy. He ended up getting thrown in jail for arguing with the judge. And there's hail outside too. The most hilarious thing about this, it was during Christmas time, so I'm sure his new wife and their kids were absolutely thrilled that Daddy spent Christmas and New Year's in jail across the country. Now, your girlfriend told the divorce lawyer that she feared for her children's safety once he was released. You guys see repeating themes? Do you see the repeating theme? I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, by accident, we're going to have kind of a pretty good amalgamation of case studies here, and we're going to be able to pull some parallels, some commonalities. I didn't feel safe. I'm not happy. Other men's kids, standard red flags Rich Cooper has been warning you all about. Financial trouble, it's all here. So naturally, the lawyer told her she and the kids had to update passports, and if she was indeed that concerned, that she should take her children, flee the country back to her native homeland, where she could then proceed with paperwork to establish residency for herself and the kids. I got my teeth. Oh, something in my teeth. Get them in school, and it would all be impossible for him to have an impact. Let me, even though this is on the woman's side of things, let me point out to both the men and the women. Let's say this was an actual dangerous threat coming from your ex-spouse. Do you see the work and the labor you got to go through? Now you got to go back to a foreign country or your home country. Now you got to get the paperwork. Now you got to move. Now you got to uproot. And I don't care if it's a country across the world or if it's like, I got to move out of state. All you had one job. I'm talking to both the parents. And even though this woman is in the United States, I'm talking to both parents in the United States and the West. Okay. You have one job: to keep it the fuck together. And y'all can't do it. You all can't do it. So everyone knock it off with this marriage thing. None of you are responsible or mature enough to do this. None of you. You're all adult children. You should be treated as teenagers, all of you. Because it's the same. I don't care if you're getting married at 35 and having a ninth inning baby. I don't care if you make it in overtime. It's no different than if you were 14-year-olds getting pregnant. Just stop it. All of you just stop getting married. All of you. Which is exactly what she did. To my knowledge, the kids haven't seen their biological father in a decade. The train wreck derails. Are you even married to this gal at this point? I'll spare you the interim details so we could get to the meat of the long but short story. No, this is unnecessarily long. My dumbass followed them to Australia. Guys, I don't read them. I just look kind of like, oh, this is lengthy. I skimmed kind of like, okay, what's this one generally about? You gave up. Let me. So you're telling me, everyone sit down. Everyone sit down. You have what was probably no doubt then a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. You were cash flowing 6 figures. You were the number one sales guy for multiple gyms. You had access to Poon at work. And you gave it all up for some used pussy. Link below. It's not I'm always trying to sell my book. It's that I very intelligently choose the books I write so that they are germane and they sell, but above all else, maybe have an impact. Link below is a book called The Book of Numbers, analyzing the ROI in the pursuit of women. The average cost is $250,000 in cash, $9.6 million after tax or before tax, sorry. An opportunity cost. This guy blew way more. Way more. I hired a property manager to manage my portfolio, and I willingly moved 15,000 miles away from everyone and everything I'd known in order to white knight and sim for the single mommy who, again, I'd remind you, I never cohabitated with. Yes, it was insane. So there we are in her home country, and I am a fish out of water. We are living with her parents, and we are now married. Whoa. Whoa. That just got, he stepped outside where there's an F5 and F4 twin vortex tornado with hail. You are actively chasing to be sucked up into these tornadoes. We got married when I came down for a visit the same year. She moved down, and we spent a grand total of $500 on the wedding. And the day after, I got on a plane to come back to the U.S. to get ready for moving to Down Under. I may be a bit of a moron, but I'm not a complete moron. Well, yeah, you are. We signed an Australian version of a nuptial agreement called a binding financial agreement. And yes, it absolutely saved my ass. And no, she initially did not want to sign it. Thankfully, I stuck to my guns and she caved. Thank God, sir. Thank freaking God. I just want to point out your assets were in the United States, right? What, the Australian government doesn't care? Like, are they starting to form a cartel? Like all the Western nations are like, well, even though you're a U.S. citizen, you're married in the United Kingdom. And in the United Kingdom, we have like an, what's the word I'm looking for? An extradition treaty. But whereas instead of having an extradition treaty, like let's say you're an American, you go to the United Kingdom and you commit, no, I'm sorry, my mistake. You are in the United States. You are an American citizen. You commit a crime here in the United States, and clever you say, I'm going to go to the United Kingdom to escape the law. The United States, the United Kingdom have an extradition treaty, meaning, hey, if we got some criminals hiding over in your country, can you please arrest them and send them back here? And according to the extradition treaty, the United Kingdom says, yeah, we'll do that, and vice versa in case the United Kingdom criminal comes over here. This indicates to me or suggests that there is a form of extradition treaty between at least the United States and Australia, that if you get divorced in Australia, they could come after your assets in the United States. And the United States might honor it. How many ways do I got to tell you not to get married? How many, not me, how many more guys do you need crucified and just like this graveyard of men crucified up on crosses with birds picking their eyes out of the corpses? Oh, I'll get married. How many more do you need? Oh boy, what fun we had. Believe it or not, living with her parents was the happiest part of our marriage, as everything went to complete shit when we moved out of there, as at least her parents enforced some semblance of rules for Larry, Moe, and Curly, whereas Aussie did not in any way. I was able to bear witness to this now for the first time since we were actually living together. Oh yeah, you didn't see all the chaos at home. I bet you didn't, because you weren't there. Aussie and I continued to do what we did prior, and eventually the hot, greasy monkey sex produced a pregnancy. How's that? That's funny how that works. I was actually really, really happy that I was going to become a dad and had a small glimmer of hope that this would reunite us as a family unit. Yep, throwing another kid onto an already dysfunctional family just solves every problem. Having a kid makes your partner a magically responsible individual who's mature. I was, of course, wrong. I probably should have had a clue when I was informed she was pregnant by her leaving a test. Yes, she pissed on a stick and left it next to my face, by my head, and her looking me dead in the face when I woke up and saying, "You can't leave now." I'm your favorite fan. Upon learning of the pregnancy, Aussie used money she had access, won't go into details, to use as a down payment for her house. With my background in real estate, she asked that I negotiate the contract. I was happy to oblige. For context, the average house in Oz is about $1 million Australian dollars, which is discount like 25%. So that's 750 US, because the Australians, they're a bunch of smart, liberal white people. They know everything. That's why it's so expensive in Australia. And requires a 20% deposit. The housing market down there is absolutely bananas. Yes. Talk to Adam Piggott. So we moved into the family house, entirely her house. I contributed nothing shortly thereafter, and that's when everyone went to complete and total shit. Any semblance of rules or boundaries of Larry, Curly, and Moe went completely out the window. It was a circus, and I was but a mere spectator. Any attempts made by me to enforce some semblance of rules or boundaries were summarily dismissed by Aussie, and anytime they really got out of hand and she lost her shit and punishments they were quickly forgiven and forgotten about. It was maddening. It was at this point, you had responsibility without authority. You were a slave in that house. You had a responsibility to deal and suffer and pay for the price of ill-behaved children, but you had no authority to remedy or solve or discipline the children in the problem, because those aren't your children. It was at this point our relationship was on life support. What kept it going was the birth of our child. You put it in quotes, really. I'll never forget holding my son for the first time and the overwhelming sense of love I had for him. That kept the relationship going for a bit longer. Then within 18 months, the disease happened, and that just blew everything out of the water. As I write this below, please keep in mind that there's a baby in the house now, and since I'm self-employed, it's agreed I'm the stay-at-home parent, and he will attend daycare 2 times a week once he reaches 1 year old for socialization. What? What? 1 year old socialization? No, it's an infant. I am also taking him to a weekly music, dance, singing play group, which I still do to this day, as he has not yet started the first grade. You lost me. I was responsible for the majority of the household chores, both inside and out, and I sent money over each month to help with her bills. Dude, you are a horrible writer. Are you back in the United States? Okay, fine. I'm just reading how it is. I sent money over each month to help with the bills, etc. We never commingled finances. I never obtained a job, as while she was pregnant, we got into a nasty argument. She threatened to revoke her sponsorship of my partner visa, and get me deported, which the following day I promptly visited a divorce attorney, and they told me that as long as I made my money outside the country and just transferred it in, It would show I was supporting the family and did not actually make anything inside the country, that the family court system had access to my resources, and in the event of divorce, she somehow managed to overturn the I undercharged you. I should charge you more. In the event that she somehow managed to overturn the BFA, she ended up owing me child support as I was the stay-at-home parent. Armed with this information, I attempted to carry on trying to give my son some semblance of a balanced family life. You should have just left like the other guy. But my child, they're not going to like you. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. You guys screwed up your kids. They're not going to grow up, right? Here's the highlight reel. Larry gets his driver's license, become a total shithead, and doesn't listen to his mother at all. Larry had been attending an expensive private school at which he would not give two shits about. I coached his sport team in an effort to try and spend more time with them. They lost literally every game, but I always tried to be supportive. Larry sends pictures of his pee-pee to his girlfriend at the time. They break up, and she claims he's sending her images without consent, harassing her, and he narrowly avoids a child pornography charge. Both his mother and I warned him against doing it. Look how bad it can go. Look how bad. Guys, you don't marry single moms. Huh? Larry essentially only passed because he would wait until the very last minute on an assignment be due and cry out to his mommy for help, and she would, without fail, complete his assignments for him while he laid at his bed playing on his iPhone. Man, your ex-wife, really just hated work. Like mothering and discipline, just, and you see it. That's standard American parents. Like, they don't want to work. They don't want to raise a kid. That takes effort. They just want a pet. Just so you American children know, you're pets. You're not children, you're pets. Have you noticed the increase in American people, just in general, adults, letting their dogs and cats just shit and piss in the house? And they always blame it on a bladder problem? It's because they're too lazy to even potty train a dog. They're certainly not going to raise their kids. That would require, like, giving up stuff. The day is going to come where there's just going to be adult children, like, adult teenage children in diapers. Because why raise your kid to be potty trained? Without fail, complete his assignment form. When asked about this and why the fuck she was doing it, she said he needed help. This petter continued to his in the 10th grade and continued until he graduated. Upon graduating, Larry didn't give a rat's ass about things such as curfew. It would not be uncommon for him to come home at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Mom had to get up at work at 6 a.m. with his stereo blaring. Our bedroom was right out in front of the driveway and wake his infant brother up along with us. I love this because you guys are paying for it now. You're paying for the little hellion you raised. He managed to grift this kid into buying his shitbox of a car for $10,000 upon the other kid's mom finding out was threatened with legal action, only agreed to pay the other kid back $1,500. Okay, so he screwed a kid on price. The parents threatened legal action, which, okay. And then your wife at the time agreed to pay that difference. Upon us, hang on. Okay, I guess we still have internet. The wife and I having an argument about Larry's behavior. He brandished a flick knife and threatened me with it. No consequences. Drugs are found in his room numerous times. When do you leave, dude? Like, when do you just leave? Man, that I think that pussy has got to be the tastiest pussy in all the history of the pussies we've talked about on this channel. Drugs were found in his room numerous times. Every time they were found, he would simply tell his mother, "That's not mine, that's my friend." And she would actually believe him and actually give the drugs and paraphernalia back to him. Again, no consequences. One day, he forgot his wallet for work, and I was asked by her to go into his room and get something I actively avoided. And I observed 5 empty cans of brake cleaner next to his bed. Also observing that there were no brake pads in his room, I only concluded he graduated from normal drugs, so is now using unconventional drugs, again, right next to our bedroom. Wouldn't you smell it? He got numerous speeding tickets and fines. Post him in his bedroom wall. Mostly due to his mother's efforts, he managed to land an apprenticeship at a place. $40,000 in private school. And he quit within 18 months, but not without going to work one day, apparently high as a kite. And I shit you not, impaling his hand. I can't tell you what happened. Uh, um, the disease happened. He went into full shithead mode and was bringing over randos to bang. Oh, girls love this. Oh, yeah, you raised an alpha. And the cycle continues. Oh, all I asked when I was younger, high school and college, is that I just got laid. That's all I asked for being a relatively normal stand-up guy. I should have been snorting brake fluid. That would have gotten me laid. You girls are so stupid when you're young. Oh my God. Our last year together during a wife's event at a local venue, he fell asleep at the table of 20 people, clearly high on something. And then he says he's tired and is going home. And Mo wants to go with him. They leave, and Larry, in his infinite wisdom, tries to drift around the roundabout directly in front of the venue where the entire family is, and can see him, and he loses control of the car and almost collides with the brick wall before regaining control. Every male at the party told Aussie that's not cool, etc. She said she knew and she'd deal with him when she got home. Spoiler alert, no consequences. Upon me vacating the house, he owed her around $14,000. He's not even 21. Also has tats next and a big old 666. Won't mention all that. He has a ton of girlfriends. You can't make this shit up. All this other stuff. Okay, he's a dirtbag. Your ex-wife turned him into the alpha that widowed her. Curly, can't really say much about Curly except she's typical teenage girl. She and I have been in conversations about the certainness of the situations, mother's tolerance of the behavior. I was also the closest to her, and I sincerely hope she gets the hell out of that environment, leads to a happy, productive life. But per my attorney's advice, I've had no contact with her since leaving the house. Mo, as mentioned previously, had an iPad glued to his face. Oh, I thought it was the other guy was Mo. All right. Mo subsequently developed an addiction to technology and has the attention span of a goldfish. I didn't find out until later. I was already out of the house. He had been having behavioral problems at school. You think? Mo had difficulty regulating his emotions, specifically anger. Mo pushed me twice, once when I was holding my son, who was less than a year old. No consequences. I didn't allow him to play an Xbox. Mo broke the handle on my car door because he didn't want to have to come home to pick up Curly from school. No consequences. Mo told me to fuck off. No consequences. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of sympathetic with Mo. It's not exactly you and your wife there provided a great living for Mo. When you tell me it was bedtime, respond with, "You better get out of here before I get mad." The unraveling. The disease was a death sentence for this already doomed relationship. All that hot monkey sex gone, replaced with a nagging housewife that would always manage to find fault in literally everything I did. I tell her I just picked up another investment and now we're multimillionaires. So what? I didn't make the dinner right. I didn't fold the laundry correctly. I didn't make enough effort on XYZ. Nothing I ever did was right or good enough. The only thing that kept me engaged in the relationship was my son. Here's something that'll make you laugh. This was our last year together, our wedding anniversary. I surprised her at work, a lunch break with her son for cuddles, flowers, chocolates, and silver earrings. She said, fuck, she forgot about our anniversary. What, may you ask, did she end up getting me for anniversary? A cheeseburger. So we're on marriage counselor number 2. You need your balls kicked in by this time. You do. I know you do. But what? Marriage counselor number 1 is, look, hire me as a marriage counselor. I'm a lot cheaper and I'll get to brass tacks and it'll be over. You either get together or you leave. And then there you go. It's done. Thank you. Saved you a lot of money. But you're not a licensed marriage therapist. Well, neither are they. I know they got a license. I don't even know if you need a license to be a marriage counselor. I really don't. But I'm like, it never works is my point. You name me where a marriage counselor got 2 people that hated each other to get back together. So we're on marriage counselor number 2, and that's when I realized it was hopeless. That's when you realized it was hopeless. That's the brake fluid wasn't the point. And then we had a session the previous day about how I can't do anything right. And literally the next day I was doing laundry. And as I was hanging towels out at 7 in the morning, she runs downstairs to scold me, to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. And to proceed to take everything I've put up, take everything down I've put up her way. This guy. You, sir, earned the This Guy award. I then asked her if the end result is the towels are dry. How is it by any definition wrong? Oh, sir. That set her off, and I just walked away. Bear in mind, there's 3 children in the house, and there are 0 chores divided between the 3 of them. Either us or I do everything. Later that week, Larry had another bang buddy come over. Bear in mind, this was the second one that week, and I told my wife, you're raising a monster. Now you tell her? Now? To which she replied, get the fuck out, or I'm calling the police and claiming domestic violence. There you go. I don't feel... What the hell? Okay, I think you guys don't get this, but let me explain. For those of you boys who are, horny, you want to get banged, or you want to get laid, a sexless life is better than this one. It is. It just is. I mean, if you're celibate, you're a monk for the rest. You could go join. Imagine, okay, let's just compare and contrast. You follow me here on this? Follow me here on this. Compare the life of a priest, a Catholic priest, not the child banging one, a regular, normal priest. Okay. You love God. You want to support the Catholic Church, whatever. You go to divinity school. I think you get a master's in divinity. Maybe you do some child preaching, Sunday school, assistant priest. I don't know how it goes. You start off entry-level priest. You tend to the grounds of the Catholic Church that you're at, and then you're promoted to normal priest. Somebody in the Catholic faith knows this better than I do. You're not getting laid. You're very penitent. You worship God. You read the Bible. And some people would say that's a boring, sexless, unappetizing life. And I would say, yeah, it's pretty milky toast, pretty white bread, pretty Wonder Bread, pretty boring. Compared to the guy who's getting laid in this story. Oh, he got laid, but dealing with all this? Guys, sex is not, it has a finite value. And many times the price you are asked to pay by society or the divorce courts or whatever is not worth it. It isn't. The true penitent priest has a much happier, much more content, and above all else, easier life than dealing with this nightmare. What I asked, where's your evidence? She just repeated herself for an even bigger whammy. Mo was standing right next to her when she said it. I told her, fine, I would leave the following day when the lockdown was lifted. And I did. The divorce. After this, my mind was made up. I was divorcing this nutcase. I moved in with a friend who was aware of the situation. My son's birthday was right around the corner, followed by Christmas, and I had contacted the same attorney, advised them that I wanted to file at the beginning of the year. I plan on limping through my son's holiday and birthday season and then ripping off the Band-Aid to start the year. The Aussie and I had an agreement that I would meet the morning at her house to watch her son during the day, and then when she got home, I would be summarily dismissed. We were also still in marriage counseling. What do you need to do? Stab you? What? The reason I was doing this was I was already told by my attorney. I figured she'd try to F me over and claim abuse and addiction. The attorney said that's pretty much par for the course and advised me that if I could attain a record of her admitting she was willing to make a false domestic DV charge against me, that would be a silver bullet should things go south. Also, by her leaving him with me, the child, she could try to claim I was an unfit parent, but that would be blown out of the water based on the fact she was willingly allowing me to watch him at her home during the day. A priest doesn't have to deal with this. This Game of Thrones, backstabbing, trap-laying, defense, offense playing bullshit with the kid as a football. So not proud of this, but I recorded our last 3 marriage counseling sessions. There you go. Well, what do you mean you're not proud of it? You're defending yourself and your son. And I indeed did get it on audio that she was willing to make false domestic violence charges. I also brought up all the illegal shit she was letting Larry get away with, and the counselor response to that was chef's kiss spectacular. So the counselor agreed with you that the child was misbehaving. In today's modern world, I don't know. I could totally see a marriage counselor. Well, that's not your child, and you should let him snort all the brake fluid he wants. Aussie actually got up and stormed out at the last session when confronted with a third party using logic and reason. Everything was going to plan with me gaining more evidence up until I wanted to take our son to a place, and she flatly refused when asked why. Bear in mind, I'm recording this. She said simply because I said no, we don't have anything in writing, and she shut the door in my face. That same day, contacted attorney, paperwork was filed, and she was contacted by a mediator. That's the process here. The following day, as per our verbal agreement, I was watching our son at home. I heard her get home from work, slam the car door, and stomp her way into the door. She told me to give her the fucking house keys, and I need to get the fuck out right now. She was calling the cops. Her son is now screaming and cleaning, trying to do best reassure him that I quit. This is a great life you brought that son into. I'm not getting a vasectomy. Cut my dick off. What are you, crazy? Not cutting your dick off. Let me tell you about the lack of pain and agony in my life. The worst thing that happened to me this year so far has been like damage to my house by a lightning strike. All that consequence-free sex I had. Imagine that. Oh. And I did my best to reassure him that I would see him soon, and I left. I had my attorney send her certified letter saying that while she had every right to not want me inside her house, parental alienation of a parent that was acting as the primary care of the child is against the law here. We came to agreement that I would then pick up our son in the morning, return to the evening. She said I wasn't effing around. Next came mediation, or as I like to call it, trench warfare. It goes on. We're almost there, guys. Just a little bit more. I just want to just think of the quiet priest sitting there and reading and contemplating God. Okay, that's all I want. The wind's blowing. It's a nice fall day. The leaves have turned yellow, so there's a nice yellow hue with the sun shooting through. And he's like, thank you, Lord, for this nice, blessed, quiet day. My attorney already warned me that based on her history of what she said about her first and second ex-husbands, to expect to say the same thing or worse about me, and that the more evidence I could gather that we could use during the mediation, the better. So she said I was the Satan incarnate. I had my best to prove it otherwise. So I recorded every interaction we had leading up to the meditation. To date, I have over 800 recordings of her by phone. Had obtained letters of good character references from the music group. Oh, all right. It's something I'm not going to mention. I knew that she was going to claim alcohol and prescription drug abuse, but here's the best part. Remember that disease I mentioned earlier? I have to get a routine blood work. Oh, done every quarter because of your mom. Well, your mom gave you a blessing from the beyond the grave. You should thank your mom for that. Remember the disease I mentioned earlier? I have to get routine blood work done every quarter. So I had close to 4 years worth of lab results showing my liver is perfectly fine. And not only that, I obtained a letter from the family doctor. We share a doctor stating that he's personally viewed my lab work and there are no signs that I abused alcohol. And he also prescribes me pain meds for my back and is in no way concerned about my usage of these medications. This was mainly because if she tried to argue this, she'd be arguing against her own doctor's opinion. I knew she was going to claim I was unfit to look after our son, even though all evidence was contrary. So I went right out before meditation, got first aid CPR certification and brought that with me. Okay, this is what you about to be divorced people do for fun. I'm going to go for a motorcycle ride. When we actually got to mediation, she claimed all the above. And when the mediator was actually fantastic, she told me this was XYZ she was alleging. And I slid the corresponding paperwork across to her and she looked it over and then looked at me. And the attorney said, well, I guess this settles that, doesn't it? Let me take it to her for her to review. This happened with every single item she tried to bring up to paint me as in a bad light. At one point, the mediator actually looked at my attorney and went, wow, what a great client. I swear to God, I heard her scream. We were doing closed door. Oh, see, buddy, you got to kind of explain that your wife is in the other room. It's for the sake of the reader, not just you barfing out your story here. Swear to God, I heard her scream. We were doing closed doors, separate mediation. We're apart from each other the entire time. So within the first hour, we squashed all the mud she was trying to sling at me. Then trench warfare set in and came down to just strictly custody time and overnights. The mediator comes in and tells us, it's my job to bring this proposal to you, but I cannot in good conscience endorse it, but I leave it up to you and your counsel. Can you believe she wanted me to have a baby monitor in my home directly connected to her phone, providing her with a live audio video feed of my phone while my son was there? As soon as the mediator shut the door, my attorney looks at me and goes, we're not going to accept that. I said, fucking right, we're not. That's the level of crazy I was dealing with. What really now that was the requirements of a baby monitor. That's when you realize she was crazy. And then in 20 years of mediation, he had never seen such a bizarre request before. At the end of the mediation, Aussie was so pissed off that she asked the mediator to keep me behind for 20 to 30 minutes so she didn't have to see me as she left the building. At the end of the mediation, see, y'all think that they get away with murder. Can you imagine this crazy woman? How pissed off and angry. She went home and cried all day. Cried all day. At the end of the mediation, we had a parental agreement in place with orders we'll revisit in 2 years' time, and that while neither of us were happy with it, it was something we could both live with, and best for all, we also had a property settlement via the BFA. She tried to overturn the BFA. This is your asset protection prenuptial agreement, I presume. But her attorney reminded that I had no assets or income in the country, and if overturned, her house would be sold, and I would have access to half the equity, something I was not interested in the slightest, and she would end up owing me child support. So in closing, I kept all my shit. I'm still a millionaire, have regular access to my kid, including overnight. Yeah, you're still down there, though, aren't you? Reading him Dr. Seuss until he falls asleep is my favorite thing to do in the world, and owes zero child support. And it's in writing that any expenses related to our son, we shall split 50-50. A cry far from the big payday she thought she was going to get. She was attempting to get me to pay child support for her other kids as well. There's a cost of living crisis in the country I'm in right now, and I know for a fact it's hitting her hard. Tough shit. Go get a second job. Yeah, I don't know what she does for a living, which is just as well. You strong, independent women with master's degrees. Now there's no one there to help you to do anything around the house, and I'm aware that she's cutting the grass, doing all the yard work. Is she doing it the right way? And I'm aware that she's cutting the grass, doing all that, while her brake cleaning, huffing Larry's downstairs finger banging the latest side piece. Oh, her life is not over by a long. She's got those kids are going to be with her till she's 45, or they're 45. Curly has her license now, so she's out of there. Good to hear Curly's doing kind of okay. And Mo is still glued to that goddamn iPad. I've also heard through the grapevine that she's attempting to get back out there on the dating scene. Is shocked to find that men aren't interested in a relationship with a thrice divorced woman and a single mother to 4 kids by 2 different fathers who age ranges from 20 to 4. She'll be 60 odd years old when the son graduates from high school. I'm fully aware I'm in the minority of men that did not get absolutely railed during the divorce process, and I will never again live in such a way that the state views me as married, which means cohabitation is off the table. I very much look forward to watching my son grow up, red pilling him on financial literacy and women as he gets older. See, look, the dad, would you like to suffer the pain and agony that this guy did? And he had a good dad. Dad dragged him out and he taught him finances. He didn't teach him about women or the legal system or family. Will you boys please take that course? The dad you never had, available on Teachable. It is always open for enrollment. If you still don't, if this doesn't scare you, please go read the Book of Numbers. Not the biblical one, the one I wrote, which is much more entertaining. He'll see for himself. I fully expect that he's of age. He can consent. When he's of age, he can consent. He'll wish to continue live with me full time, and I'll be more than welcome because he's going to want to escape the absolute circus that is his mom's house. Thanks for taking the time to read this, Cappy, and keep doing what you do because guys out there need to hear this. I'm lucky, and I know I'm a 1 out of 1,000 to have an outcome like this. I'm kind of more curious, like, what, are you coming back to the U.S.? I mean, you down there? I guess you have to stay there for the sake of the kid, but at 18, like, I mean, is not your son a United States citizen then? Oh well. Okay, let's go to the super chats. Ron Suarez, $2. Get married, Eric. No, I didn't say that, Ron. I didn't say that at all. Don't you be putting the exact opposite words in my mouth. Wisdom Vision Productions, $2. Peace sleeve is a hell of a drug. It is, isn't it? I mean, heroin ruins your life, but I mean, someone, not me, write a book about addiction, like who's a drug counselor or a pharmacist or a neurochemical expert who's an expert in addictive drugs. I want you to write an exact same analysis on pussy. I do. I want you to do it. Frankenfoot, $5. Thoughts on using AI voice changing you and friends to say funny out of left field stuff? Well, I don't know. You having fun with it? Yeah, go ahead, do it. As long as it doesn't get anyone in legal trouble or cost people their job. Stan the Milkman, $2. I says to these bras, I says, nope, nope, nope. I says. See Dumbledore, $5. Cappy, for the other suckers like me out there who got married, 2 key rules. You must file for divorce first, and you must get a divorce first. For those who are married, right. We're just helping these boys not. All right, that's it. More on the way. See you guys later. Toodles.